For those who are new to the channel, I share videos and tutorials here on YouTube, and you can find free high-resolution photo references on my Patreon site. If you like what I do and you want to support me, you can show your love over at Patreon. Because watercolor is transparent, what I usually do is paint around my subjects. First, I prep the paper by wetting the area I want colored with a wet brush. Then I slowly add color to the background and paint around my bunnies. For my background, I usually use 2 to 3 colors, in this case magenta, yellow, and orange. I figured it goes well with my light brown bunnies, an almost analogous color scheme if you will. To create a fading effect around the edges, I wash my brush of color and use that wet brush to thin the colors at the edge so it fades better into the empty whites of the paper, and thus eliminating any harsh watercolor lines. I also add more colors on the background near the subject to emphasize the focus towards the subject. This creates more contrast, making it more appealing to the eye. Blending between colors is the same as fading the edges, using a wet brush as softening the harsh lines between colors, giving it a more flawless transitioning. In addition to the soft look of the wet-on-wet style of the background, I like to contrast that with some bold splatter pattern, taking my brush and flicking the wet paint everywhere on the paper. Don't need to worry if it lands on the subject itself, but of course, try not to aim there. As I said before, with watercolors being transparent, I tend to be more cautious because it's rather difficult to undo your mistakes. Hence, what I do is to work with light, then move towards dark. I wet the area where I wanted to blend light brown so I can block in where I want my midtones and shadows to be. Once I feel more confident, I shall use either thicker paint or a darker color altogether. If I want to blend the colors, I use the same technique, i.e. wet brush to spread the paint around. I also use my medium brush to give an effect of fur, but I do not do this in a detailed way. It is to help block in some of the details for later. It helps bring everything together in the end. So I work from a big brush to block in where are my midtones and shadows, then to a medium brush for rough detail work, then only to small brush to work on the details itself. Eyes are my favorite part because they really capture the audience's attention. I work by painting an outline of the eye, followed by where the highlight will be. I do not have black in my color palette, so I pick my darkest color, which is dark brown, and paint the top half of the eye as dark as I can. Then I carefully spread little paint to the bottom half of the eye. This gives a very beautiful reflection to the eyes in an almost gem-like manner. Leaving the animal and background just like that didn't feel like it does this justice here, so I am going to paint an outline, but in a more subtle and appealing way. I use my dark brown and paint these outlines, but I imitate fur, so instead of straight uncharacteristic outline, by using fur texture, it looks a little more natural than a full-on cartoony look. For the whiskers, as they are fine hairs of the rabbit, I use my small brush, and using its fine tip, I gingerly stroke the whiskers and eyebrows. Water control is important here, as too much water it can be too light and it can also go everywhere, and too much paint makes it difficult to paint a line but breaks and trails off. For the second rabbit, it's the same concept as the first. It's all about repetition on different subjects, blocking in color, rough details, and then detail work. The last touch is grounding my bunnies onto a floor by painting shadows beneath their bodies. Without this, they look like they're just floating in the air. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but for this piece, I felt some shadows would help. I hope you find this quick tutorial helpful. I'd like to thank my patrons over at Patreon for supporting me. I share free reference photos, videos, and tutorials for everyone to see. If you'd like to support me, you can head over to my Patreon site and check it out. Thank you for watching.